Morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to another edition of Think and Grow Rich Live. My name is Dr. Peter A. James, and I am excited to dive on into this Saturday with you, another edition of Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, specifically talking about imagination today with a very, very special guest that you have seen here before. And as far as host, I'm here by myself today. So I'm excited to have a conversation with all of you who are listening out there in the YouTube land, or even those of you who may be part of the webinar today. Hope your Saturday morning is going very well so far. Hope your weekend is going well. Hope last week went well for you today. And also, I hope you are imagining a phenomenal future, a future where you're able to dive on into whatever it is that you dream, whatever it is that you think of, right? And in this chapter, chapter 5 of Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill talks about two different types of imagination. He talks about synthetic imagination, but he also talks about creative imagination. The synthetic imagination, folks, is one that can arrange old concepts, ideas, or plans into new combinations. So that's you taking maybe what you've learned from school, maybe what you've learned from others, maybe what you have studied, and making it something through the combination, through your information, through your knowledge. That's synthetic imagination. It's just so needed in your life, in your business, in your career. Creative imagination, on the other hand, is the one that is through direct intelligence with your infinite intelligence. That imagination that is breathed by almost the ether. It is dropped into your head. Um, if you ever have a hunch, an inclination, inspiration, those often manifest as creative imagination. Now, Napoleon Hill says in this text that creative imagination becomes more alert, more receptive to influences from many of the sources that were mentioned in proportion to its development through its use. The challenge is with many of us as human beings, we don't use creative imagination much. We resort to what we hear, what we read, what we see on social media, TV, the things that we hear, and it can cloud our imagination. I'm hoping that today, after this conversation, after you posing some questions, that you'll be able to think differently about your imagination, your future, what you dream about, what you want to inject as you move forward. So I'm excited to dive on in today. As I've been mentioning to you before, I am not alone. I do have a distinguished guest, and I want to say good morning to Lynn Whitfield, Carla Hill, Diane Kingflowers. Hope you all are doing well this morning. Thank you so much for joining us so early on this Saturday morning. But without further ado, we have an individual who is no stranger to our show. We have an individual who is part of the Think and Grow Rich Live family for sure. It has been here not too long ago for sure, but he wants to talk about his own imagination. But I want to, without further ado, welcome back, Lawrence. Good morning to you, sir. How are you
Morning.
doing today?
Absolutely fantastic.
Excellent,
You know,
excellent.
and when you
So
brought up the fact that I
go
do want
ahead,
to
go ahead.
mention that when you brought up how we often get too stuck in trusting only what we see and what we hear and what we're told, whether that be through our family or through school, that's what I believe squashes so many people's imagination. Because think about a little kid, a little 5-year-old. You ask them, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Mhm.
I'm going to be president. I'm going to be king of the world. I'm going to go walk on the moon. I'm going to go be a rocket scientist. They have these delusional ideas. They have these unrealistic goals. They have all of these things that at some point, unfortunately, someone somewhere is going to say, yeah, but You know, there's never been a woman president before. Yeah, but you know, the last time we went to the moon was like 50 years ago. Yeah, but you know how hard it is to become a rocket scientist? And you squash those little kids' dreams. But if you think about it, if I spent 30 years of my life trying to become a rocket scientist from the age of 5 years old to 35, I'd end up a rocket scientist. You could do a lot with 30 years if you have the imagination and you have the drive to achieve the goal.
Yeah, I love that. I love how you started. And listen, we should not, those of you who have kids, young kids at that, um, we should definitely not be in the habit of squashing those lofty, even as you described, sometimes unrealistic goals. But we almost need to encourage their imagination. But you're right,
Yep.
Lawrence, because if we can go right there right away, um, we know this that as we get older, what happens? Right?
We just,
Life happens. And we have, as I say, we have bills, we have
yeah,
responsibilities, and we let those get in the way sometimes, not even sometimes, all the time, of our dreams, of our ideas, of our hunches. We let circumstance get in the way.
yeah.
I would love to hear some as we continue to have this conversation, Lawrence, from the audience, how they may have historically let circumstance get in the way,
Yeah, well,
then how they may be able to open it up now moving forward.
I'm
Um,
gonna chime in on that.
yeah,
And I
please go
also
ahead.
want to mention that with parents squashing goals, it's not something that they intentionally do.
Correct. It's
It's
all in
not like
love.
you
It's in
sit there
love.
and go, I'm gonna go squash my son's dream today.
Mhm.
Nobody's sitting around doing that. It's unintentional because that's what happened to you, and that would happen to your parents, and that would happen to your parents' parents. So it's really just passed down that realistically, no one in your family has ever been a rocket scientist. Realistically, no one in your family has ever been the president. But for there to be a first, there must be a first. There's no reason why your son or your daughter cannot be the first. Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, it's challenging. Yeah, it's difficult. They're going to have to go to college for it. They'll have to study. They'll have to do a lot of things to achieve becoming the president or becoming a rocket scientist or working for NASA or driving a Formula One car or becoming a professional boxer. Yes, it's very hard, but it's possible. Unless it is scientifically, biologically, physically impossible, it is possible. Just think about your phone for a second. Your iPhone, Android, whatever you got, Samsung. This is a supercomputer stronger than what they used to put people on the moon. The entire knowledge of humanity right here for free. If I wanted to go watch a sports competition happening in Rome, I can do it from right here. How? Okay, we have a device that uses Wi Fi. How? There's invisible waves going from the air to a satellite, to a computer over there, to a camera over there, watching it over there, and it streams it to me in live time. How? Because somebody figured out how to create Wi Fi. Someone figured out, hold up, if I put this rock and this rock together, I can create a device that connects to things thousands of miles away. Or even a lighter, your basic lighter. I was walking down the street earlier and started thinking about this. How does a lighter work? Okay, you press a button down and it presses a spring that pushes a piece of flint that creates a spark that uses a vacuum pump to make a cloud of fuel where that spark goes off inside the fuel and now it creates fire. This happened before you can blink. If you went back 300 years ago and showed someone a lighter, they call you a witch.
Mm,
And that's a little plastic $1 lighter. If someone can imagine how to create fire on demand, how to create long distance communication, how to create a camera, how to create a refrigerator, even. Up until 100 years ago, refrigerators didn't exist. We had ice boxes. So even when the goal sounds delusional and crazy, and oh my gosh, there's no way they're going to pull that off. Someone pulled it off before. All
mm,
you have to do is figure out what they did to achieve it.
mm. Lawrence, I want to yeah, you went really deep, really fast, and I want
Yeah.
to come back there as well. I also want to go back to something that we were talking about earlier, and how we as parents oftentimes squash our kids' imagination when we don't even know it.
Yeah.
When we think we're doing it out of love, safety, but we don't even realize it because of what we've been through and what we've experienced,
Yes.
right? And so, but we're going to come back to that a little bit. I wanted to introduce this video which talks about these 13 steps, these 13 principles in Think and Grow Rich. After the video there, Lawrence, I want to have you reintroduce yourself to our audience. There may be some audience members right now who did not sit in on the last session when you were with us. So I want you to give us a brief background on your story, on your journey, and then let's dive back on into this emergence, this imagination. I was going to say emergency, this imagination chapter as we move forward. But hey, folks, without further ado, please allow me to introduce you to this book, Think and Grow Rich, through this video that we're getting ready to watch that really speaks about these 13 chapters, these 13 principles, these 13 essential ingredients on how to live the rich life, not necessarily just rich by money means, wealth means, but rich in general, the richness of your life. So please give it a listen and look forward to your comments in the comments section on YouTube.
Number one is desire. Napoleon Hill said that everything starts with a burning desire, a compelling reason for doing what it is we do. Step two is faith, having belief in our ability to attain that which we desire. Step three is what we call autosuggestion. Autosuggestion simply means being very intentional about the things that we are pouring into our thoughts, into our brains, and into our consciousness. Our brains, our minds will receive everything automatically, but we have to work extra hard to make sure that the positive things are what we are feeding ourselves, because those positive thoughts are going to turn into positive actions. Step number four is specialized knowledge. No one person knows everything, even about whatever their particular area of expertise might be. And the value of the Mastermind principle is using the specialized knowledge of other people. Step number five is imagination, the workshop of the mind. Everything starts with our imagination and our thoughts, the burning desire to transform those thoughts into our reality. In order to do that, we have to take a look at step 6, which is organized planning. That is how we crystallize our desire into action, organizing ourselves. Having the thought and not acting on the thought isn't going to get us anywhere. We have the thought, we go through the organized planning to transform that thought into action. Step number 7 is decision. What Napoleon Hill said is the mastery of procrastination. Napoleon Hill said that the antidote to procrastination is simply to make a decision and then move on that decision. Step 8 is persistence. We have to have a sustained effort which is induced by our faith in order to achieve our goals. One of Napoleon Hill's books I love, even the title, 3 Feet from Gold. Those people who became rich during the gold rush in the wild, wild west days didn't do that because they were necessarily smarter or had better information than anyone else. It's because they stayed just a little bit longer. Sometimes people left when they were just literally 3 feet from gold. So hanging in there, being persistent, is step number 8. Step number 9, the power of the mastermind, the driving force. None of us can accomplish anything on our own. Everybody, I don't care who you are, from the most prominent person to the person who might be considered the lowest on the totem pole, everybody has someone who helped them get to where they are. And the power of the mastermind is being able to use those influences around us. Use the thoughts, use the knowledge, use the exploration of other people to help us in achieving our goal. Step number 10, the mystery of sex transmutation. This title can be a little confusing, but essentially what the mystery of sex transmutation means is that we oftentimes in our society think of sex as being purely physical. It is absolutely physical, but what Napoleon Hill teaches us is that sex also has an emotional element, and that sex is the strongest of our desires. That if we can take our sexual energy, transform that into positive, creative influences, it can propel us to new heights. And so we spend quite a bit of time talking about the mystery of step 10, which is sex transmutation. Step number 11 is the subconscious mind, which Napoleon Hill tells us is the connecting leap between our human mind and the infinite intelligence, the source of all thought, the source of all creativity. Conscious mind, we spent some time talking about how we use that through the influence of autosuggestion and what we're feeding into our mind. Step number 12, which is the brain, the broadcasting and receiving station of thought. Final step number 13, the sixth sense, the door to the temple of wisdom. This is the final step through which infinite intelligence may and will communicate voluntarily without any effort from or demands by the individual. The principle is the apex of the philosophy. It can be assimilated, understood, and applied only by first mastering the other 12 principles.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Again, those 13 principles, those 13 steps. Those of you who have never had the opportunity to pick up this infamous book, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, today's your day. Dive on in, get it. It's inexpensive, but one of the most valuable books that will benefit you, your career, your business, your family, for that matter, as well. Shout out to Galen Bingham and Ann McNeil, who are not with us today. Ann is in points unknown around the world. Look forward to having her again back with us very, very soon. But dear Lawrence, I want you to tell us a little bit about who you are. Remind us who you are, how you've even gotten to this point in your life, my friend. Love to hear.
Well, something I often say about myself, especially lately, is that we can all look at Lawrence today and see Lawrence with the office and he's on the microphone and he's up on the stage. We can all look at that Lawrence. But where I came from was this 12-year-old boy who just felt lost in the world. Because up until the age of 11, I didn't really have friends since I always was the odd one out. When everybody else wanted to go play sports, I wanted to go read a book or watch National Geographic or read a dictionary. When I was 10, I used to really love reading the dictionary because I loved the beauty of words. But when I was 12 years old, I was sitting on this black couch and my mom was calling my phone because she wanted to tell my sister happy birthday. Little bit of context, my mom and my dad are separate. He has his own place, my mom has her own place. And one moment I'm just trying to work on my school project on my phone, and the next he blacks my eye. And that led to the next 3 years of my life where I felt utterly defeated, as if I was walking through my day-to-day life questioning what's even the point of all this? What's the point of trying so hard when it feels like nothing I do ever works for me? And eventually, he kicked me out. Through the court system, I got me and my younger siblings out of there. And when I was 15, I was looking in my bathroom mirror and I asked myself, why? Why did he do this to me? Why do I feel as if nothing is worth it? why do I feel lost, not physically, but lost on this deep emotional spirit level? Even though I've been in therapy for years prior, journaling, doing all the meditation and the practices and everything, it was as if nothing was working. And once I started asking myself why, answers start coming up. Why do I feel like I'm still stuck there? Oh, Lawrence, it's because you're keeping yourself mentally stuck there. No, I'm not keeping myself mentally stuck there. It's, oh, think about everything they did and this, and kept blaming everyone and everything outside of me. But when I took that hard, honest look at myself, I started realizing, hey, so many people can benefit from what I've been through and the lessons I've learned about resilience and picking yourself back up and finding a reason to keep pushing and finding this love for life. And that's when I got on YouTube and I started making videos of myself walking through parks, just talking. Just I would fire that camera up and say, okay, today's topic is going to be finding a reason to be happy. Today's topic is going to be self-love and why do I made a 1 hour video about why people dress the way they dress and how it actually is symbolic of their subconscious mind and the way they see themselves and the way they see the world. And through the last 4 years, I've gotten more clear on my messaging, helping teens and young adults improve their mindset, improve the way they see life, and not feel how I felt when I was younger. Now, through that, I've been living a fantastic life, overcame so many things, was diagnosed with complex post-traumatic stress disorder at 13 years old, and now I don't really have any problem with it. And a lot has happened, but I found the beauty in it.
Good stuff. And it's good to hear how you have overcome
Yeah, a lot of
challenging
people
scenarios, challenging situations in your life, there's so many of us who have not been able to overcome. And
yeah,
I
I
guess my one question for you, Lawrence, is this is as you look back on it, even in your short life, how were you able to overcome when when many people have not, or you felt like maybe some things were hopeless? What got into you? Was it the
well,
imagination? Was it the dreams? What
there
was it? Maybe it was
there
faith.
was so many things. There was an imagination
Mm,
of, because keep in mind, originally when you're that beaten down internally, it's hard to imagine anything else being possible. And what I would do is I would just tell myself one more step, one more step. That's all you gotta do. One more step,
mm,
and then you could take a nap, and then one more step. And these little micro steps, these little micro goals, such as, okay, today I'm going to brush my teeth. Today I'm going to get out of bed. Today I'm going to make my bed. And then, because there's so many things I've learned through the years, and now I'm trying to find what was the one thing that got me through it. A big part of it is learn how to turn that pain and that anger and that frustration into fuel.
mm.
Learn how to think of it like the guy who gets cheated on, and he goes to the gym, and 6 months later, he's got muscles busting out of his shirt. He turned that pain and that anger and that frustration into fuel for a positive goal, such as getting himself in shape. Maybe his reason for it was, oh, I'm going to make her regret losing me. But in the process, he came to realize that it's not that serious. I can move on and I can better my life. So for me, I turned that anger and that fuel and hatred I had against my father into positive things, such as going to the gym, working on myself, trying to be a better person to my friends and family, and my siblings, trying to create a meaningful life for myself. So I would say the number one thing is, especially when you're in that bottom, when you're in that frustration, you're angry, they cheated on you, they kicked you out, there's these hard situations. Let that pain be your fuel.
Mm.
Okay? The most driven people are the ones who are very, very, very angry. Just use it in a constructive manner. Put that anger into them weights. Put that anger into your business. Put that anger into I'm going to be a better parent to my children than my parents were to me.
Mm.
Use that like fire to create the best meal anyone has ever had instead of letting it burn down your life. I hope that analogy made sense to you.
Yeah, and thank you for that though, Lawrence. Because one of the questions I was getting ready to follow up with for you was, are young folks today, again, live a lot of their lives through social media,
Oh yeah.
and their dreams, their imagination may be limited to that lane.
Oh yeah.
And it may be squashed by someone they love. Or, some ideas may be squashed. E- Even there may be some setbacks, some things that have happened. And I love how you said to channel. How can we channel pain? How can we channel anger? How can we overcome these and channel them to those dreams, those goals, that imagination that will open up so many other things for us in the
So
future? Maybe we're making it a little bit easier than it sounds, or making it sound easier than it really is. But even if you pursue that, other things are going to materialize.
oh yeah, it definitely does. It's definitely easier said than done because firstly, it requires you to look at your anger and your frustration and your sadness and all these dark emotions and look at them and not judge it. You have to look at it and not judge it. This is a dog in a cage. It is angry. It is rabid. It is going to bite anyone and anything. So you have to let the dog be free. You have to let it go out there and find something for it to attack. Like that anger for me, it wasn't because people see me now and they might think, oh, he just all this love, light, positivity. Lawrence at 15, who got out of that mental slump, that was a very angry guy because I was driven by this fire that was pretty obsessive.
Mm.
When people are getting out of these like really bad slumps, you got to get obsessive. You have to have that desire, as it would mention in chapter one, like this burning desire. You can't like be wishy washy with it. It gets real obsessive. On the good side, it leads to incredible results. Keep in mind, I'm 19 for anyone who might have been wondering. I'm very young. I've achieved a lot of great things. Okay, I'm not on top of the whole world yet, but I'm doing pretty darn well for myself. Um, and when you mentioned young people living through social media, that comes with its own host of issues there. Because let's say I gave you $100 million right now, tax free, no strings attached. You just wake up, 100 million in the bank. You feel pretty darn amazing. But you go on Instagram and you see Jeff Bezos, 400 billion. He loses more money than I gave you in a day. Every day, the guy loses hundreds of millions of dollars and doesn't even notice it because he just has money like that. 100 million to him is like $200 to your average person. And the issue this has for teenagers, especially, is you're growing up and the world is so hyper competitive. It's the Jones effect on steroids. Oh, I got a Lamborghini. Oh, you got a Lamborghini. I got a Bugatti. Oh, I got a 15,000 square foot house. 15,000 square foot. My house is the size of a football field. And everyone's trying to flex and brag on each other when the reality is that if we all just loved, I'm trying to figure out how to put this because it's so many insights and thoughts I have on the subject. But your original question was about the imagination aspect of it and if it's hard to see a way out. Is that correct?
Yeah, and we'll come back to that because
Yeah.
I think even some of our audience members are really intrigued about how we can continue to assist and help young folks because we oftentimes think about ourselves when we were young and the messages that were squashed um, by others, by loved ones, oftentimes. Because again, as I mentioned earlier, loved ones, they love us. They want to keep us safe. They want to keep us on a successful path according to their ideals, according to their journey and history and what they've seen and what they want to keep us out of hurt, harm, and danger. Those of you who are watching today, I would love for you to inject some questions, some thoughts as it relates to this topic of imagination. Definitely about young people, but also about you.
Yes.
Have dreams and imagination escaped you now because you're older? And if not, what are you dreaming about? Are you
Mm.
dreaming about this success? If you're like me, that house on the water, or that being able to travel, or a successful business that's beyond your wildest dreams, right? Are you dreaming about how your family could um, be expanded, how your family can be successful also? How health may be able to continue to be sustained or improve. You know, what is it for you? Or maybe even there's a more important question. Are you still dreaming?
Mm.
Do you still have that imagination? Because again, life has a funny way of squashing it for us to bring us back to reality, as people like to say,
Mm.
for us to avoid this dreaming, the imagination. But as Napoleon Hill says in this chapter, it is so important. It is so important. You know, Lawrence, in their chat, Lynn is asking about our young folks,
Okay, let's
and
see.
she was asking a video on dress. I forget where you even mentioned that for sure
Okay.
earlier, but more importantly, even as those of us who are encountering young people on a regular basis, whether they're teaching, whether it's just communicating. I have my youngest is actually 16. She's getting ready to be a senior. I also have a grandson. I want to be able to communicate the right messages. So what do we how do we communicate that better? If you were to go back to your younger self, what would you desire to receive in order to be more inspired, I guess, is a question. I know it's kind of loaded, but
Mm.
ideally, what would you have loved to have?
I
Maybe
would
maybe there's a
say
teacher that you had. I'm sorry to interrupt. Maybe there's a teacher you had or someone else that inspired you. What about them kept your mind open? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I would say that one of the best things we can tell young people to inspire them and help them to go and pursue their imagination and dreams, firstly, is whenever they have this crazy huge idea, ask them how are you going to do it?
Mhm.
How? Okay, I'm going to become a rocket scientist. How? I'm going to go work for NASA. How? I'm going to go get a degree in astrophysics. How? I'm going to go to college. How? I'm
Mhm.
going to apply. How? I'm going to graduate high school with a 4.0 GPA. How? I'm going to study hard. How? I'm gonna not hang out with people who are distracting me. How?
Mm,
Yeah, I need to cut off them friends from third grade who I've been dragging with me this whole time and they've been stagnant. So you
mm,
see how we have this huge, crazy goal of being a rocket scientist, and now we created a realistic, not in the be realistic way, but realistic in the actionable steps, taking one step at a time to achieve a goal that actually isn't that unrealistic.
mm,
There's hundreds of thousands of rocket scientists. It's not impossible. Now, if you wanted to go to the moon, that's a different story because, first of all, NASA has to be doing moon missions and they haven't been for a while. If you wanted to build your own rocket ship and fly yourself to the moon out of your backyard, okay, that's kind of different, but within reasonable limit, any goal you can think of is possible. A second thing I would say in terms of people who inspired me, people who helped me to create that imagination is surround yourself with the kind of music, the kind of images, the kind of mental pictures, and imagine yourself in first person perspective doing the thing. Because when we're imagining, we often think from like third person perspective. We see ourselves in the car from the outside of the car. We see ourselves on the stage from the crowd. We see ourselves being the business owner or traveling or flying a rocket ship from the third person. But when you place yourself first person perspective, you feel the wheel, you hear the engine, you smell the scents, you are grabbing the peanuts on the plane. It creates the chemicals in your brain that are the same as if you were there actually doing it. Some of the people I want to say have helped me the most with that
mm,
have been my past therapist,
mm,
people whose videos I watched online. There's
mm,
this guy named Wallow267. He's actually from my city, and I met him when I was 11 years old. The long story short on him is he went to prison for 20 years.
mm,
So he went in at 17 years old, came out 37. He grew up in prison. He spent more of his life in prison than he has spent out of prison.
mm,
Now the guy has a multi-million dollar podcast, brand deals, motivational speaker, books, the whole nine yards. The guy is making some crazy moves. If he can do that, I can do that.
mm.
If he can go in 17 years old, no high school degree, no college degree, nothing, come out and make these major moves, I can do that too.
Yeah.
Now, of course, we don't all have access to people like that, but we can go on YouTube. We can look up motivational videos, David Goggins, Tony Robbins, Les Brown. Find somebody you like, and you want to imagine what do they know that has gotten them to that point, and feed your mind this information. Feed your mind the images. Make a vision board. Make your phone background something beautiful like the house you want to get, the money you want in your bank account, the goal you want to achieve, the car you want. Make your environment conducive to that. So that's one of the best pieces of advice I wish someone gave me.
Yeah.
Surround yourself with the images and things that you want.
And I love that. I love that, Lawrence. I'm going to take it not so positive first, and then I'm going to bring it back again. Unfortunately, sometimes we are feeding our mind with the not so positive stuff, the gossip, the
Yeah,
rumors, that type of stuff that is not uplifting us, that is not supporting us on that journey. So it's so important that we are feeding our mind with the right messages, with the right individuals, with the right goals and imagination that can inspire us to move forward in the right direction. if you're a young person who's listening to this, the earlier that you can recognize what that is, what that looks like, what that feels like, then you're on to something. And
Oh
if you
yeah,
have
and I
someone
want to
around you who is vested in you, that's definitely another one there for sure there, right there, Lawrence?
yes, and I want to chime in there with how we often surround ourselves unintentionally with so much negativity, like gossip and the slander and this and that. Here's the reason for this. That's what's getting pushed. That's what's pushed. And it's done that way by design. Because I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist or anything when I say this, but just think of it like this, right? If I owned a huge company, I want workers. I want people to work at my place. If you're out doing your own thing, you have your own business, you have your own income source, you're doing Amazon KDP or drop shipping or crypto trading or all these other things where you're not working for me, I don't like that. So I'm going to do everything in my power to keep your imagination limited. You ever noticed when's the last time you heard Bob Marley or KRS-One or J. Cole? And I'm talking about like his soul music, like the kind of music like Love Yours, Crooked Smile, stuff like that. When's the last time you heard that on the radio?
You don't hear those too much, do you?
Yeah, but when's the last time you heard something glorifying violence or um glorifying sex or glorifying all these things? When's the last time you heard that?
Right, right.
Today. That is done by design. So, what we also need to do is make a conscious and deliberate effort to feed our mind the good stuff.
Mm.
We have to consciously make an effort to do this because you go on Instagram, the stuff that gets the most views and gets pushed the hardest, gossip. Yo, y'all heard about what so and so did? Y'all heard about this person and that person? We spend so much time worried about everyone and everything else that we don't put that time into our dreams and our goals and our vision for life. And if you're always looking outside of you, you never get to look inside of you and find your gift. So we need to, whether you're older in age, young, have children, work with children, you're a teacher, you're a have any involvement with youth whatsoever, remind them to make a conscious, deliberate effort to find the good stuff. Yeah, I know the rap music sound good. You bobbing your head to it, you enjoying it. I be bobbing my head too. But you got to remind yourself you can't keep soaking this energy in, or it's going to have an effect slowly but surely. And the people who say, no, that's not going to affect me. No, it's not going to affect me. That's just music. Mm, give it a couple years and watch what happens.
Yeah. I think that's a good segue to also, Napoleon Hill talks about it in the book. There's a chapter on mastermind, right?
Yes.
You're mentioning it very well about surrounding yourself with the right people, listening to the right messages. Those of us who have not ever experienced having or identifying those right people, I definitely want you to take a step back and ask yourself, who is that in my life? Who does it need to be in my life? Even as Lawrence had mentioned, how do I need to go about in enticing or surrounding myself with those individuals? If you have never done so, one thing I want you to put on your calendar. Early January of 2026, we have an annual meeting, which we have every single year, where we plan our future, not in just one or two areas of our lives, but in multiple areas of our lives. We're able to imagine, dream, and lean into those goals that we want to be able to accomplish. We write them down, but then we are held accountable. We are held accountable for them as we continue to move forward. The dates have shifted a little bit. They are January 9th and 10th of 2026. Please mark your calendars. Please, I'll make sure that I put the link in the chat for you so that you can take part in that as we move forward. So definitely give it a go. Um, a couple of comments that I'm going to put in that I'm going to read from the chat there for you, Lawrence, and for all of us who are watching. Lyndon says, growing up, I secretly dreamed of being an entertainer and never felt supporting and doing anything but to go to college. Doretha says, hey, growing up, I had several teachers who inspired me. Eventually, I became a teacher as a result, right? So we never know, especially the impact that we are receiving as young people. If you're an adult now, we never know how the messages that you are communicating to others, how they may be landing. So
Yeah.
therefore, what are you communicating? How are you communicating it? Um, are you partnering with them as they're discovering their dreams? Understanding their ideas. I love how you mentioned it there, Lawrence, the how. How are you going to get there? But not even just how, what will it take?
Yes.
And what do you need? What do you need to be able to, who do you need to surround yourself with in order to accomplish those goals, accomplish that dream?
Yes.
Right?
Um,
Because if there is anything realist about it, I think that those two questions right there, the how and what will it take, will allow them to take that step back and dive in a little bit more.
yes. And when you brought up Mastermind, it reminded me of
Mhm.
of a section in there where he described how he mentally had this giant table with all the people he admired and would have conversation with these people, Abraham Lincoln. I think he mentioned Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, all these great people who have achieved massive success. Most of those people at the time when he wrote this book were dead. They were just imaginary people in his head at this table. When I really read that section, I began to do that because imagine if you had, I just use these people because they're very well known. David Goggins and Tony Robbins. And have you ever heard of Andy Elliott?
No,
He's, long story short, he is the world's best car salesman. At 18 years old, he made $125,000 selling cars.
Mm,
At 19, he made 250,000. 20 years old, he made half a million. 21, he made like $2 million selling cars. Ridiculously good salesman. At 40 years old, he decided he's going to start a sales company where he trains people on sales. And he doesn't just talk about sales, he talks about the psychology behind it, the character qualities, the spiritual aspects, God, all these great things. So imagine if you had a table with these types of people, public speakers and bodybuilders and amazing salesmen and marketers and all these people. I don't know a single one of these people, never spoke to them a day in my life. But if you look inside my head, I'm best friend with these people. I'm like, so Andy, if I'm on the phone with the event planner and they say, yeah, we really want to get you in, but budget's kind of tight. What should I say? What should I do? And it's like a direct line where that subconscious mind that Napoleon also speaks on, it starts firing up ideas. Do this, that.
mm,
So if you don't have access to people such as teachers who inspire you, football coaches, um, motivational speakers. If you don't have access to these kinds of people, you're doing here.
mm,
All you need to do is imagine it up in your head and create that vivid imagination, submerge yourself in that vision,
mm.
and watch how your life starts transformation.
You,
So,
you know, what's unique about these times that we exist in right now, that we live in right now there, Lawrence, is unlike any other, there is more access to positive individuals, successful
yep,
individuals than we've ever had in history. Our digital means, of technology, whether it's social media or YouTube or even just TV, allows us to be closer to these individuals more than I ever had when I was coming up.
Oh
So
yeah.
again, if you are a little older, or even if you are younger watching this, what are you listening to?
Oh
Who
yeah.
are you watching?
Yes.
Who are you
We've got a
digesting? If it's not always something positive about what you can do for others, or what you can do to, make your future even greater, then I gotta ask, then what are we doing? What do you do?
yes,
Is it
and
only just purely for entertainment? Because yeah, while entertainment is good, there's more to life than just digesting entertainment,
yep. And
right?
that's the most beautiful and hardest thing about how we live now.
Yeah.
We are by far the most connected, yet also by far the most disconnected people.
Mm,
Because
mm,
prior to the smartphones, if you wanted to make friends, you got to go outside.
yeah. Mm,
I live in Philadelphia.
mm,
We have about 2.5 million people here. 2.5 million. More people than some countries have. But you don't really see kids on the playgrounds much.
mm,
You don't really see, kids going to the water park or playing in the fire hydrants, or you don't really see it that much. It does happen, but not as much as you would think it does. Why? Because I got this right here.
mm,
I got TikTok. I got Minecraft. I got YouTube. I got all this right here. Why should I go outside?
yeah.
And in having access to all of the entertainment, and having access to all of the motivation and all this great stuff, unfortunately, Netflix is a whole lot more entertaining than reading a book. Unfortunately, YouTube Shorts is a lot more entertaining than my video where I describe to you step by step, line for line, how to reprogram your brain to make you like doing hard stuff. And I put that out for free. That's the free stuff. The paid stuff is where I go even deeper on it. But unfortunately, YouTube, TikTok, and Netflix is a lot more entertaining. So I'm glad you brought up that point of the awareness of what do you feed yourself. Because if you just imagine your mental diet as your physical diet, if you ate 10 cheeseburgers and 15 fries from McDonald's, there's going to be a major impact on your body. But if you put 10 cheeseburgers and 15 large french fries into your brain, there's quite a effect on everything in your life because it starts from the mental, it starts from the imagination. And if you can't imagine it, you can't achieve it because to achieve it on the outside, you have to believe it's possible. And to believe it's possible, you have to see it in your mind. You have to see the bank account. You have to see the car. You have to see the career. You have to see it mentally to then go and achieve it on the external. So it's the importance of imagination is so simple yet so complex at the exact same time.
Lawrence, this has been like the fastest hour of my life. So as we get ready to close, tell tell us, what are you imagining and dreaming about for your future, that we need to be that so that we need to keep up with you as we move forward?
At some point, I want to open up a community center
Hmm.
where people can just come in as they please, sit down, and once a week I'll probably host like a event there. Because growing up, especially in like an urban black environment, I never grew up in like a rough environment. I never was like in Compton or Iraq or any. I wasn't in a place like that. But I am well aware of how from my house, within walking distance, you have a smoke shop, a pawn shop, a dollar store, a liquor store, and a corner store. I've also traveled to different locations like suburbs and New Jersey and all. I've been around different places. And I noticed that in the lowest income neighborhoods, there also happens to be the highest amount of accessibility to vices and self destructive habits. So I want to start putting spaces in these environments where people can come and get valuable resources like a community library and promote that we have it. I have a library near my house, but it's not promoted. No one's putting up flyers saying, "Hey guys, we're having an event at the library." No one does that. So down the line, I want to open up community centers. I want to teach people how to be leaders who make more leaders, who make more leaders, and creates a massive, great ripple effect.
Yeah.
So that's pretty far down the horizon. Maybe 5 to 10 years from now, I'll do that.
So as we get ready to close there, Lawrence, how do we stay in touch with you, my friend? What's the best way to find you, to stay in touch with you? We're gonna make sure that we put it in the chat in a little bit as well. But how do we stay connected?
Very easy. All my social media platforms, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Lawrence C. Empowers. My website, lawrencecharris.com. And if you guys want to email me about any kind of business opportunities, speaking, um, workshops at your school, I believe actually Lynn, she found me from this live
Nice.
2 months ago.
Good stuff.
And she emailed me. My email address for business purposes is lawrence@lawrencecharris.com.
So
Please don't
I'm
spam me.
And I'm going to ask you to put that in the chat a little bit for us there as well, uh, Lawrence, as we get ready to land this plane. Hey, folks, this has been another phenomenal show, another phenomenal weekend of Think and Grow Rich Live. Lawrence has been fabulous. Oh, Lawrence, I literally cannot believe that we went that quickly talking about this imagination chapter. Hey, folks, one of my biggest takeaways was, hey, what are we actually feeding our mind? Not even as young people, but as adults. What are we feeding in our to our mind? How is
Mm.
that impacting our imagination and our dreams? And then the other part of this is, are you still dreaming?
Oh yeah.
Are you still imagining,
Mm.
right? And if you're
You just got
not,
me.
you
You
might need to reach out to Lawrence. You might need to reach out to me. My name is Dr. Peter A. James. I'm the high performance coach helping you to shift your mindset, to think a little bit differently. You can find me on LinkedIn. It's also at shiftyourmindset.com. But either way, reach out and identify those partners, those people who are going to inspire you or push you. And ultimately, at the end of the day, folks, no matter what you do or how you do it, just continue to think and grow rich. Hey, until next week, folks, we'll see you another same time, same channel next week. See you then.
bless one.